Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Lainey Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true. All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of How to Run Profitable Retreats. I am your host, Lainey Cavazos, and today I have Bruce Honig here with me. And I am so excited to have you here because we are going to be talking about how to design the perfect corporate retreats. And for those who have been listening to this podcast, you know, I love corporate retreats. Coming from a corporate background, I completely understand that it's such a big necessity. And they also have the budget, right? But it's not for everyone. It requires a certain type of personality and mindset to actually host retreats for corporate people, because your ideal client is very, very different, right? Your ideal client is a client, but then the people who attend might not want to be there. But let me just tell you a little bit about Bruce before we jump into this amazing conversation today. So he brings his clients over 35 years of experience. I mean, you want to hang in here to listen to all the things he has to come and share with us today. And his experience is in training, facilitation, and organizational development. And he practices, right, developing organizational creativity and team collaboration. He is the ideas guy, okay? So he has amazing ideas. I know he has developed some games and, but he has worked with hundreds of companies that represent most of the industries. He has a bachelor's degree in educational psychology, a master's in educational psychology and curriculum design. So think about crafting designing these perfect corporate retreats. I think this is where it comes, right? And he researched creative behavior and design at Harvard laboratories for educational research and development. And he uses a systems approach, and this is absolutely amazing. And he developed a theory and program for promoting creative action, right? Everyone listening here, I am sure you are thinking, yes, I am a creative being. I want to have more creativity in my life, right? So, and that led him into his consulting firm, right? So he has invented a nationally marketed board game, Create, the game that challenges and expands your creativity as well as many other games. Oh my gosh, I have to go get that game. You need to tell us where we can go buy it so we can all get it. It sounds absolutely amazing. And additional Bruce, he was previously the owner and operator of Camp Invasion, a children's camp devoted to the creative spirit in all of us. And he was a board member of the American Society for Training and Development and a current member of the International Association of Facilitators. He also plays jazz, classical piano, and composes, and he loves to eat and create elaborate dining experiences. Well, I am not surprised by the elaborate dining experiences, but oh my gosh, Bruce, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I love talking about design. I love talking about retreats.
Oh, yes. So tell me a little bit about how do you decide, okay, first, actually, let's rewind. How would you see a regular retreat design different than a corporate retreat design?
That's a good question. I don't think they should be designed differently, quite frankly. I think they should be the same. And the very first thing one should ask if you're leading a retreat, whether it's corporate or it's a personal retreat or any other kind of retreat, is ask the question, why? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? What do we hope to get out of it? Is if it's a personal retreat, is it the sense of getting nourished or to rewire oneself or to have a new perspective of life? Then you design it for that. If it's a corporate retreat, oftentimes it entails, well, we need to do some planning. We need to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. We want to figure out what is ahead of us in the next year or three, and so that can be a purpose, or it could be we need to become more cohesive as a whole in a team. And that's the key difference right there, is that in a regular health retreat, for example, you have a bunch of individuals coming together, and they probably have some common needs and desires, and that's that kind of retreat. In a corporate retreat, the focus is already established. There is a focus, like to create a strategic plan, or to be more cohesive as a group, or well, those are the two main ones. But that's the very first thing, is to determine why you're doing it, and specifically why you're doing it.
Right. And I love that you bring this up, because for me, your why is the first thing and the last thing you need to think about when you are creating a retreat. Like at the beginning, when you're wondering, why do I want to do this? I always say retreats are not for the faint of heart. And like, you have to have a big why of why you want to bring people in the same space, right? And then at the end, when you're planning it and all the pieces are of the puzzle put together, you need to ask yourself, am I fulfilling the why?
Mm-hmm. And it's not as that simple, even, because you got your personal whys, why you're doing it yourself as a leader, the people coming to you, what is their why, and then there's the bigger why, and you have to juggle all three of those purposes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that, yeah, it's such a great way to explain it, because at the end of the day, your why is definitely different than the person who's attending. And we do need to be very like clear about it, and always do kind of like a check-in, right? Because what I see a lot in the retreat industry is we start with an idea that's very clear. The why for our personal why, and the why for our clients is very clear when we start. And then life starts happening. And then at the end, we end up with something completely different that does not fulfill those whys.
Mm-hmm. That's very likely. In a business retreat, it doesn't fluctuate that much usually, but certainly for a personal retreat, it does. Yeah.
So let's talk about corporate retreats, right? You've been doing this for so long, and it's amazing to have someone with expertise here on this stage, so we can learn from you. But what would be let's start with the main things that you consider are key to designing a perfect corporate retreat.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said in the very beginning, is to really be clear on the purpose, or the why of it. And then from the why, there usually are different goals. And the goals, you could think of them as outcomes, things that you hope to get out of it. One outcome, for example, be a sense of the mission of our department, or the company. It could be, what are our values? Let's determine our values, or determine how we're going to make decisions in the future. So these are like outcomes that will establish, for example, criteria for decision making. It could be a vision. We need to develop a vision for the future. And this is the kind of vision we're looking for. So the outcome needs to be really clear on it. The next question you ask usually is, okay, who is going to do the work? Who's going to facilitate this? Oftentimes in a corporate retreat, you don't have that much of a budget that you to hire a facilitator, but I don't think that's, and I'm biased, of course. I don't think that's a good idea. It's important to have a facilitator. Why? Multiple reasons. One main reason is that whoever is elected to facilitate, they can't be engaged in the actual content of the retreat. So you could think of a retreat as having two parts. One is the process, that is what you got, the activities and what you do, the tasks of the retreat. And there is the what is in the task, the content. So if you're doing visioning, if I have a sense of a vision that what we're going to do is increase our morale by 20%. That's our vision in 2 years or something like that. Let's just say that's a vision. Uh, that is content. That's content. How do we come to that conclusion that we're going to increase it by 20% or whatever? That is process. So that the facilitator is the person who's in charge of the process. And it's hard to do both content and process at the same time. The facilitator is also an expert in that process. They've been doing it for years and years and years. They know what works and what doesn't work. They know how to get different voices in the room talking to each other. Now think about the person who led your last meeting, if it wasn't you, and ask yourself, was that a collaborative meeting? Did everybody have their voice? Was able to provide their voice to it? Probably not. So you're lucky, you're good. You got a good person there who's able to do that. But most leaders, from my experience in doing this for over, I hate to say, 35, 40 years, is they don't know it. They don't know how to do it. They don't know the how of it. They don't know the how of the process. So find a facilitator that fits with the culture, the group, and knows the process and knows what you're trying to accomplish, what your purpose is. That's really vital to have a good retreat.
Yeah, and something that comes to mind here is also choosing a facilitator that understands the corporate language.
Yes, although that may not be as necessary because, well, the facilitator is the one who designs the retreat, right? So you have to kind of understand the language to be able to do that. But it's more important for the attendees to understand the facilitator, because the facilitator is more like the guide. It's the I think of myself as a facilitator as like a camp counselor.
Yeah, and and by knowing the vocabulary, I do not mean that they need to know like our like the slang and all this kind of things, but really that understands how to communicate to people in the corporate space. Because I can safely say that in this space we might have amazing facilitators for, let's call it the woo, right? Like and they're amazing facilitators for that, but that does not mean they're the right facilitator for a corporate environment. Because if I show up, I'm going to place myself in a role of a facilitator. That's not who I am, but a role, like a fake role for a second, right? And I'm going to tell that I am a person who facilitates by communicating with angels. And they hire me to come to a corporate retreat. And then I come in and I'm like, because you talk to angels, you can have your spirit guide team, and because of that, you'll increase the morale by 20% by you talking to angels. How many of those people in the room are going to think, is she crazy? Right? Yeah. So I think it's very, very important when you choose facilitators to bring into your corporate retreats that they understand the corporate world, that they have a vision, they can communicate with them. And it does not mean that someone who does the things with angels cannot shift, but usually it's harder. But I can see it, right? Like we need to be sure that the person coming is going to be relatable to the audience.
Absolutely. The word that comes to my mind is that need to fit. Fit into the culture. So if I'm in a culture that's very sensory focus in a Myers-Briggs sense,
okay, Mm.
I'm not going to bring up angels at all. Even even if they're intuitively focused in a Myers-Briggs sense,
Right.
I probably won't do it. But if I find out that these people are into angels, and I mean everyone, because if you got 80% of the people into
Doesn't
angels and 20% not, you're going to lose the 20%, right?
Yeah.
So
So maybe let's say it's an angel company, right? Like
yeah,
it's like a company,
they're,
a
they're
corporate,
bringing
it's
angels into the world. Yeah, that's
bringing
their
angels.
job.
That's their thing. Then it's relevant.
Then do that.
But if
Or you
not, probably
know,
not.
that doesn't mean you can't experiment. I mean, you could say, we're going to do something a little woo-woo right now, not the whole retreat. We're going to do something woo-woo. We're going to bring in a channel and have that person. And I've actually seen this done, but it has to be done in a very sensitive way and in a way that fits into their culture. And I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is that they take their round peg and try to put it into the square hole.
Right.
And that's not what you're doing. You're not force fitting. You're actually guessing to their culture when you're a facilitator. You're a servant in a sense. You're servient to them, not the other way around. You're not pushing your agenda on them. They're pushing their agenda onto you.
Yeah. And I can remember when I went to a couple of corporate retreats, right? Back in my corporate days, when, like some people will be like, oh my gosh, that speaker again, no, please. You know what I mean? Like, so I really see corporate retreats from this, and we spoke about this in another episode about corporate retreats. It's like you need to be crafting things for the people who are going to roll their eyes at you. Like you need to like when it's a retreat that you sell B2C, person to person, they're
Mm-hmm.
choosing to come. But for corporate retreats, a lot of the times they're just told, we are
Mm-hmm.
going here and we're gonna become better teammates. And then there's people who are like, I'd rather be home.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you bringing me here? I do not want to be better teammates. I just want to be left alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question, the original question is, how do you design a retreat, right? How
Yeah.
do you design a corporate retreat? So one of the, besides understanding your purpose or overall purpose and understanding everybody else's purpose, is you got to understand really what the expectations are of most people coming to the retreat, if not all people. And so what I do to do that is that I interview as many people as I can that are coming to the retreat, where you find out about their expectations and you find out what their personalities are and you find out what some barriers might exist. So before you actually do any design work, interview them, find out what it is that they want, what they want to get out of this retreat. And if they want to get this particular speaker, then great. And they may say, we saw Dr. Schleimy last year. We don't want him again because he was just quoting references. Then
Right.
you don't get Dr. Schleimy or anyone like him. You find something else. Uh, and so that step, it's like you might think, I know what everybody needs, so I'm going to do it. Bad idea. Ask.
Terrible idea. Yeah. So it's like market research, right? Like you're getting one client. Yes, the corporate office is hiring you. So, but then you need to do your research.
Yeah. Your job as a facilitator is to provide value to everyone.
Mm,
And how do you know that unless you know what each person values?
right. I would even think to the space that maybe you're a person who wakes up early, right? You're an early bird and you're someone who likes to wake up at 5 a.m. and start the day strong and whatnot. So you're like, I'm going to put my corporate retreat and we're going to start at 5 a.m. and we're going to go for bike rides and we're going to do this and and then by 4 p.m. like it's out or you have a lot of energy, so you want to go all the way to 9 p.m. and then suddenly you get there and everyone is like, 5 a.m. I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
we're
but
not going to do it.
we're not gonna do it. And
You might have a
maybe,
retreat that might be challenging, though. You know, the purpose of it is to challenge someone. So you frame it as such.
right, yes, you're reframing the experience. But I'm even gonna think like I remember was I think the marketing VP of Nike or something. She used to run her meetings running around New York. The staff with the team, that was their thing. But Nike, it's a sports company, right? So you can understand how that's part of their culture. So they're used, for example, let's take that as an example. They're used to taking meaning, standing up in movement, right? Doing all these things, and then you bring them into a boardroom. What's going to happen? You better have some coffee.
Well, that's a generic human desire or need to move your body. Not everybody languages through their body or, experience. A lot of people do, they're very body focused, but everyone has their body and everybody needs something done with their body. You can't always have a retreat here in the head. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I like that. Yeah. And look, I think there is like, for example, there's these they're called camps. So there are retreats, but they're called camps. And they're for physiotherapists, right? Physiotherapists are all about the body. So they do come and they sit down for a few hours because they're getting their recertification every year. But then they have either a surf trainer or a running trainer. They went to Kenya to do running camps in Kenya. So every morning they would go running around. They did it also in the French Alps. They did surfing camp in Portugal, and I think they did one with bikes as well. So physiotherapists are all about the body, and it's perfect for them. Instead of going to a hotel for 2 days to get recertified, they go for 5 days somewhere exotic. They get to they what they do is they bring specialist training on running or a specialist training on surfing to teach them how to do properly, right? How to run properly on different scenarios and whatnot. Like, I mean, imagine I'm not a runner, so I would not be keen to going to run in Kenya and wondering if there's a lion is gonna, jump at me. But for a lot of people, it's so interesting and they want to do it. So it's about really knowing and understanding your audience and
Yeah.
what do they want. And not take it for granted, just saying, oh, well, my client is a corporate office, so I'm going to make sure that the corporate office gets the overall results, because they won't if the people attending aren't happy.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it all goes back to your purpose
Yeah, every single time.
every single time. If your purpose is to annoy everybody and do things against their will, then maybe you might want to do some of those things. Have everybody wake up at 4 a.m. and or somehow get them off of their typical frame. Uh,
I mean, what if it was a corporate retreat where they wanted like employees to quit?
oh yeah, yeah, you could do something that would
you know, not putting ideas out there, people, but you
work.
know what I mean? But like to test who really has the strength to stay, or like if they have the attitude for the next, I would say, for example, if there's gonna be a company merger, things become super stressful. Like I went through a corporate merger of 3 companies. It's intense
Yeah,
because
that's
people are coming from different companies and they're like, my company was better. Ooh, my benefits were better. And then the other one, no, mine were better, right? So there's like a whole thing, and we're like, no, we're one now. Like, I was like, but I always had like, oh, she has this, she's her background is from luxury brands. And then the other ones were like, oh no, we're from many brands. And I don't know, like it becomes a thing, right?
they could
And
use a retreat and the purpose being to make it more cohesive.
right. But a lot of people left, right? Because they could not re-identify themselves with a new brand,
Yeah,
new
yeah,
company. So having these experiences and events can actually help the company figure out who wants to stay and who doesn't want to stay. Because why do you want someone who doesn't want to be there?
Well, I've had some clients that made it clear what their rules of engagement are or what the mission is. And if you're not for our mission right now, there's the door.
Yeah. If you do not want to come to the corporate retreat, then, well, you're not part of the team.
Yeah, well, that's a different issue, to come to the retreat itself, because the retreat itself is just a vehicle.
Oh, yes, 100%. But no, I totally agree. Like a bad apple, right, can rot every other apple.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and anyway, we're like, I don't want to go into the topic of like firing and whatnot, but I do have to say, as a business owner, you have to make the hard decisions. If they're not providing the things that you need and you're paying them and they're not generating revenue, they're an expense.
Yeah,
You need to think like a business owner, right? This is what
absolutely.
companies do great.
They're
And
there for a reason. And if they don't fulfill that reason, why have them there?
exactly. So the same thing would happen for anyone hosting a corporate retreat. Okay. If you do not host the best corporate retreat and you're intentional and you learn about your audience and your purpose is clear and the purpose of the company is clear and the purpose of the attendees is clear, they're not going to hire you again to come back next year and do the next corporate retreat.
That's right.
So you want to
Here's
make
another
sure.
thing to think about. Ready to think about another element in terms of design?
So, well, I would say one of the pieces of the design would be also the itinerary, right? And I know we spoke about a little bit of like the pieces, but I think the itinerary is a big one. And we've been
When you
like,
say itinerary, you mean agenda?
the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What goes into that? Is it fulfilling the purpose? And from my perspective, the question I would ask, is it engaging?
Mm,
Now that's broad.
yeah.
What engages one may not engage another, and again, it has to be engaging within the context of the purpose.
Yeah.
But
It's not, we're gonna have a karaoke party because everyone loves karaoke, but it makes no sense.
yeah, not everybody's going to like karaoke. You'll get some people in there, and again, that won't be engaging. You want to make sure it's engaging for all. Um, yeah, of course.
So what would you think is a great example of an activity that's very engaging for all? I know it's a broad question, but
Yeah, it's really broad. But I'll give you some, like what I would do. Let's suppose we're developing values. We need to establish within our department, we need to establish what our values are. Why? And people have to understand that first is we're doing this so we can make decisions based on the values. If something is against our value, then we don't make a decision. So we need to determine what that is as a group and get buy-in.
okay.
So what's engaging if we were to do that? One thing that's engaging is that, and I do, is I have people write down what all their key personal values are. And I have them do it on index cards.
Okay.
And I give them some time to do that. They might have a pile of 20, maybe 30 values that's important to them. And of course, I would define what that is. So that's engaging. Everyone's doing it.
Because you're putting part of you, like, you know, something is yours into the company, right?
Into the whole, which would be the next step, is that you put all those values together and you give it to a group and you say, okay, pick the top 5 values of all these values that would fit for our department or our company. That would actually establish what the key values are based on a definition I would give them of what the values are. And that's a big task. So then it becomes a collaborative exercise. And if there are rules, and if people understand that to be collaborative, it doesn't mean one person dominates or two, but that everybody contributes. Then that's an engaging exercise.
Okay, I like this. Yeah, I think it's all about bringing the people into the experience,
Yeah.
making them part of it.
Yes. And not making them feel like they're a minority. Like the karaoke idea that you were saying. A lot of people like karaoke or at least watching karaoke, but there are some it's like they don't want to see it at all. So that would be more alienating and not engaging to the, I don't know, percentage of people
Right.
who. So you want to make sure things are more enabling. Now, of course, some people in any activity will get more involved than others. That's just human nature. That's okay. But what you do to counteract that is that you do a variety of activities, different kinds of activities that are engaging, not just like a mind activity, maybe a visual activity, maybe a body activity. So you do different things.
Oh my God, Bruce, you're making me remember all the corporate retreats I attended and I planned. Like, oh, and
So
then
you
this
tell me,
activity.
Lenny, tell me the top two, no, let's say the top three things that you hated the most about these corporate retreats you went to.
Okay, so I'm a very positive person, so it's like hard because I tend to like always see things the glass half full. But okay, I did like we had this. It was more like a conference for 400 people, and I organized a conference. But we had the night before the end, we had this party at the Dead Sea, right? So it was a beautiful party, absolutely amazing. And I was working the hospitality business, right? So people tend to drink. So the next day, we have our department workshops. So we had a few days, 3 days, 3 or 4 days, I don't even remember now, with speakers coming from across the world to give their presentations, and we had interactive experiences and whatnot, and it was very fun. But these days, we would go, salespeople would go with the salespeople, right? Marketing would go with the marketing people and whatnot. So we had the trainer, one of the trainers that was specialized in marketing, do the workshop. And once we opened the doors and we went through, she had like a bunch of people just clapping. And imagine all the people who were hangover. I was not, but I am sensitive to noise. Like I get agitated by those kind of things. That was a horrible thing. I was like it's 9 a.m. People went to bed at 3 a.m. Like, why would you do that to people?
Yeah,
Like it's about and what it was, it's felt invasive.
that's a good case of designing for oneself rather than for the group.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
And
would
she's a
be
person with like
familiar.
so much energy and she's like loud and,
Yeah,
like
and
she's like,
and you too have to be that way. Yeah.
exactly. And, and she's like, oh, I wake up at 6 in the morning and, she used to do triathlons, right? So she had like a lot of energy. And then everyone else is like, and it
Uh,
didn't matter that then we had the founder of Vice coming to give a talk on marketing. Everyone was like, okay,
yeah,
so that was one for sure that I did not enjoy. Um, I guess the other one is, oof, I'm like thinking of so many, like I'm also thinking about the good ones, but um, yeah, okay. So the exercise was good. It was this exercise about like learning how to follow, and so we were in teams, and we had to learn how to get one person was on one side of the garden, and then we had a group, and we had to guide them towards us and whatnot. So great about leadership skills and whatnot, but they did not tell me I was going to be outdoors underneath the sun. I could have brought a cap. So that was not great. Not thinking about those small details
yeah.
because I burn easy and I take care of my skin. Like I tan on the shade. So, so those little details of like even either providing the caps or saying that or having shade or not doing it at noon,
Hmm.
those subtleties, I think those are important. Now that I think about it, it was the same trainer that put it together. So now there's a trend.
The same one as the clapper?
Yes. I think so, yeah. It was different events, completely separate years. Because we had a few, like we organized a few of the experiences inside of the retreat, but then she was in charge of that one specifically. So I am more of the person who's like, I used to do internal activations for the office. Like that was one of my roles. And I created this board game, like human-sized board game, so people could come and play. I had a puzzle. We were revealing the new brand. So we had a puzzle and everyone got on their desks a piece of the puzzle so they could come and put it on the board.
Great.
Super simple, right?
Yeah.
I did a donut board, like, you know, like they were very popular for a while. Like you had these like walls with donuts and like, yeah, just like donuts hanging on the wall.
And what do you
And
do with the
then
donuts?
it was the reveal. It was part of the reveal of the brand, so there was a lot of things happening. But then
Ah,
everyone could come and grab coffee and donuts in the morning. So it was a coffee and donut morning, and everyone got like personalized invitation on their desk and whatnot. And people were removing the donuts, and underneath there was the logo. Right? So everything was about like revealing the new name, right? So like those activities were specifically created about that. And the one with the board game was more about reinforcing why the program is amazing. It was a loyalty program. Uh, well, yeah, well, it was Marriott's one point program, right? So I did like the reveal and the launch for Middle East and Africa. It was absolutely amazing, but we were able to create things that were very like personalized and like tailored to the people. Like we could think about like, well, what do people do, right? They go downstairs to the coffee shop and they buy coffee every morning. You see queues of people from the office just going and buying their coffee. Can we bring that experience a few floors up? It does not have to be that complicated. And then you just need to give them an invitation and say, hey, we want to buy you coffee tomorrow today. Do you want some coffee? Right? Do you want some donuts? These like little details, right? When there was like a launch of like something from a brand, if the brand was about wellness, you would get like a tiny plant, right? Little things that creating engagement on the company, but that it was not about like fireworks and crazy things. It was more about how can we create more community.
mm-hmm. A lot of those things are for creating interest.
Yeah.
And that, which is half the equation. The other half is the actual engaging piece. How do you, now that you got interest, what are you going to do with that interest?
Right.
What is the next step after that?
Yeah, so for us, the next step, people could there were some like questions. We had a jelly bean bar and whatnot, and there was these like little things where you could answer a couple of questions, and everyone wanted to come and answer the questions. You know, we had caps and all the things, but the person who won actually won a trip to the Maldives.
Ah,
Do you
that's
think people were engaged?
yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
1 week, all expenses paid, including the flight ticket, business class to Maldives.
Especially that one person who won it.
Oh yeah, he was so happy. He was like, "I'm gonna take my wife."
Yeah. Yeah, that's an engaging thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and people were engaging because they were answering the questions about the program, so they were learning more about the program, and everything that we were creating in that specific moment was to educate our internal team, because so many times
yeah,
when if you're in a corporate office in marketing, you focus so much on the external marketing to your clients, but you forget you need to market to your team. Your team
absolutely.
must be on board.
And I just love that idea of eating through a donut and revealing the new logo.
Oh yes. And we had like, we did so many things. We branded the windows. People came and they had like everyone like they used to put the AC super cold. So we're like, what can we do to fix this? So we order blankets for all the office for like for our brand Marriott Boy. And then one day everyone came and they just had blankets with a nice card with like, you know, handwritten note for 500 people for each person that says, hey, we hope you don't get cold anymore. the Marriott Bonvoy team.
Hmm.
Do you think they loved us?
Yeah. It's like you want to be part of you. When you get those little things, those little details, like what we were talking about before the session started, and that says, yeah, I want to be. I'm trusting you. You're taking care of me. I will trust you.
And guess what? Whenever I had a project, like I ran a competition for 11,000 people. So because I was like, well, now we did it for the corporate office.
Yeah.
Now let's do it for the 250 hotels. So 11,000 people, competition, also winning, but it was not just one trip, it was a party for the team, for the whole hotel, right? We would sponsor a party for price one, price two, and it was about engaging and relearning the loyalty program, everything about Marriott Bonvoy, right? I love loyalty marketing. It's like the best thing. Imagine like all these things I got to do is like, and just to get people engaged and in relationships. So the beautiful thing about this is because we nurtured such an engaging community inside of the office that when I needed sponsors to run that event for 11,000 people, and I needed partners that will follow up with the people in the hotels, so the area directors of operations, they needed to be on my side. Guess what? I went and I asked, and they said, yes, Lainey, whatever you want.
Yeah.
How else can we support you?
You're a good designer.
Oh, thank you. But it is about considering that when you're thinking about like your retreats, corporate retreats, even if you're doing activations inside of the office, right? It's about how can you create this connectivity between everyone while reaching your goals? Because my goal was very clear. I needed more people to be aware of our brand from an internal perspective, right? And that was one part of my role. That was not everything. Like I used to do also for hotels and for external campaigns. But one of the things is like I'm in charge of internal communications and internal marketing. So I made sure that people knew who I was, that they knew that they could count on me, and that every time they came to one of the things I put on, they knew they would have fun. There would be some nice gifts. So they always wanted to come, right? Like they wanted the, like, they always be like, oh, are we going to get some Mercedes-Benz caps, right? Or, we used to have like a suite in the Coca-Cola Arena. So there were concerts, right? So we sometimes could give some tickets away to go see Westlife and Tony Robbins. I got to see Tony Robbins because of one of these events, right? So you get to create and nurture those experiences with your team and the people you're working with. And it doesn't matter if the vehicle is a retreat that is offsite or you are creating a retreat experience inside of the office. So this works also for people who are inside of the company, right? Not just an external facilitator that comes in, but if you're in a role, usually learning and development has this. How can you actually do things differently so people are not bored and they're like, oh no, another town hall meeting? Please no, I don't want to go sit for 3 hours to learn about the state of the business. Send me an email.
Well, you know what is the most boring thing in these retreats, in the conferences and meetings, is PowerPoint.
Oh yeah.
And it's not so much PowerPoint. PowerPoint is a great application, right? Or having a projector out there that has all your information, that's great. But the problem is that it's very passive. It's only one way. And a lot of leaders rely on it. They don't know how to engage people. They don't think about all the ways that you have engaged your folks in the examples that you gave, and they don't think about how they could find ways to engage each other with each other to make decisions or to generate ideas.
I love this. Yeah, one of my other companies, it's called We Summit, right? So we put summits together for people who want ready to buy audiences in front of them. So we have speakers. And when I go through like training, and I do not do speaker training, but I do presentation skills training because I've been trained on how to do presentation skills. And I tell them, if you cannot do your presentation without a PowerPoint, you're not allowed to use a PowerPoint. It's not a crunch.
That's
If
right.
you can run your presentation without it, then yes, and it can have maximum three words or an image.
Right. Yeah.
Anything more than that, no. Still people
Yeah.
go on whatever they want to do, right? But I mean, text heavy, like all the paragraphs and then you're reading, it's just crazy. Anyway, we can talk about this forever, Bruce, but is there anything else you want to add towards the space of like,
Just one little minor thing to that point,
yeah,
and that is uh, we find ways, and this is like a tip for the folks that are listening, find a way to get people involved beyond their memories. You know,
mm,
you know, you give me the five different ways, the priorities for new brand, for example. That's, that, yeah, you can put on a PowerPoint, that you could give a speech, but don't, that's boring.
yeah,
That is not engaging. It doesn't make me want to come because I can read about it. You can send me a memo. Uh,
right, yeah,
but find a way that it involves me somehow. Maybe help me, maybe have me make a decision about these brands, or make it clear,
yeah,
define what these points are. There's hundreds of ways to involve, but you have to involve. And the problem is that we're always being spoken to,
yeah.
not
Mm.
spoken with. And that's the problem. There's no dialogue, or very little dialogue. And so find a way that there is dialogue so people speak together in collaboration.
Oh, amazing, Bruce. Thank you so much. This is so useful for everyone who's listening. And Bruce, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
Email Bruce at IDEA guides, GUIDES.com.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Bruce, for this. And I look forward to
Pleasure.
seeing everyone else on our next episode. Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.